Hello everybody, this is Ben Styles bringing you round 2 of the Battle of Stoney Hill. This round is going to be a doubles match play round, again on the Garnet layout. We're playing all 18 holes. This round is going to feature me and Joe Wallace paired up against G and Donnie. We're going to be starting off on hole 10, which is 336 feet. Par 3 plays right across this opening out here. And you see this little gap in the woods that's straight ahead. You're pretty much trying to just play in the gap up there, challenging those trees to the right, and get anything that'll just hit and stick once it gets in that opening, because it's a pretty big drop off. Joe left that one a little bit shorter than he wanted to, didn't quite get the height he needed. I'm going with a verdict here, trying to put it high and hoping it'll just kind of hit and settle down in there, but it takes a good skip. We'll have to see where it ends up once we get up there to it. Donnie's going the forehand approach route, trying to just kind of punch it in there and see where it ends up. He didn't quite get as right as he wanted it to, but it's got to get him up in there. We're going to have an obstructed view at the basket at least. And then G's going the traditional backhand route here. And just leaves a little bit short of that gap. So this is where they're left with. Donnie's shot has put them up where they have something, but there's not really a good putt. Anywhere over there really obstructed. So they put up close to the basket for the easy 3. This is where my drive landed. It went way down the hill. Joe put a good bit on that, but not quite able to get it. So we're going to start off with a push on the first hole. So we're going to be moving on to hole 11, which is a short little uphill shot in the woods. Very tough little shot. It can get you in a lot of trouble really quick. OB left in the creek all the way along. So ideally for me, I take a zone like you see here, something a little overstable and slow, and just put it down the left side and trust it's going to finish over to the right. Joe's trying to take the backhand route and catches the first tree on the right and kicks straight into the OB. So Donnie again is going to show you that forehand shot. Just he's going to take it a little bit straighter. Anything up in that hill is going to give you a nice simple putt out. G is going to throw the forehand as well, and he leaves that just a little low. This looks like it kicks a little to the left. But Donnie's shot's close, and you can see anything up there that finishes into that hill is going to get you a nice little putt like this. So, great shot for us and for the other team, just to push along, keep it moving. So, moving on to hole 12, it's 281 feet. It's an island hole. It is, but it isn't. So, it plays as an island because everything short of the road is OB. There's also an OB creek that runs straight through the middle of the island. You can just see it just come into view there. Joe's shot just made it on. I think we're going to be good there. Then I'm going with the thumber route. Not a lot of people still throw this thumber, but I still like it a lot. It works great when you actually throw it and don't just throw up a little Nancy shot like I did. And I hit the OB rope and managed to stay out. So this will be G's shot. Piping it down the line. That looks pretty good. Moving on to Donnie, trying to play the forehand flex down there, which is a great shot if you've got it, but it can be difficult to execute because it's downhill, and if you turn it over too much, it's going OB. If you don't turn it over enough, it's going right in that creek down there. But he's put a good move on this. You see the little skip, and it just settles up there by the basket. Great shot. So this is where Joe's drive ended up, just short of the creek, but inbounds on the island, which gave us a tough little awkward footing straddle putt. We'll need this one to try to push. Just catch that French cage. So this would be for G to pick up a hole. Good putt by G to take their team up by 1. It's tough losing one this early on, but there's lots of holes left. Moving on to hole 13, 325 feet. It's primarily you're only going to see forehands on this hole. It's going to play straight with a forehand finish. You can get up to where you can get a putt going across the creek or get across the creek for a putt, but ideally, you're going to set yourself up with a straight drive that's going to give you a long look across the creek for a putt at your 2. But 99% of the time, you're going to see 3s on this hole. You're rarely ever going to see a 2 here. Donnie threw a great shot. He went inside of that tree, which, according to Mike Martinez, is how you get a look for the 2 on this hole. So we'll have to see where that finishes it up. But this is my play here. Just taking a Thunderbird and just throwing it straight, challenging the length of the hole, and just trying to get it down there somewhere where I can look across there. Joe throws an absolutely beautiful forehand shot with his overstable destroyer, and this is what it left us. So this is ideally what I'm going for on this hole. This long 35, 40-foot putt across the creek. one layup, one go for it kind of thing. But you can see where Donnie's drive ended up. They're in prime position. And G makes good on that putt to put them up by 2 after 3 holes. So that's a great 2 to get. You're not going to see that one very often at all. Moving on to hole 14, 716 feet. This hole is long. So in other layouts, this hole plays as peninsula hole from a shorter basket or for a shorter tee. But here you're playing uphill off the tee and then back downhill to a guarded peninsula green. Donnie's going with that forehand turnover shot, which is the play to get the most distance out of here. So with a well-executed forehand turnover shot, you can actually get across the road that's out there. Whereas the backhand, you're pretty much trying to get up to anywhere near the other tee pad for the diamond layout. Joe's going with a turn here. He's throwing a nice shot. It's a little farther right than he wants to be, but it should play pretty well. So I'm going for the forehand turnover shot here, trying to get us a lot of distance like I had in previous rounds, and I got it nose up, and it never was able to flip. So that's going way out into the OB over there. Joe's drive left us here really tight on this OB fence. We weren't able to get it a run up or much throw for worried about hitting our hands on the fence. But that's going to get us down there and keep us moving on the fairway. So Donnie's in a pretty good position here. They're going to be primed to attack the opening, try to get where they can take their easy 4 on this hole. But he just turned that over a little bit, and it's left him a little short of the gap. But he should be able to try to finagle something from there. So Joe's laid up to the gap here. I'm going to try to be a little bit more aggressive and try to put it down that gap a little bit, and just did not put any throw on that at all. But I've put it in the left gap going down there, which is what you can see them having to just play up to there. So this will be to put it up close, to try to save our par, and try to force them to try to match to push for us. So got a nice little skip there off the ground, nestled right up under the basket. And this will be Donnie for the approach shot. And rolls away a little bit, but it stays in, so that's going to be fine. He's going to have this nice little tap-in putt to push on this hole. We were worried that we weren't going to be able to catch this one because they had a much better drive than we did, but we managed to work it out. Moving on to hole 15, 235 feet. Plays pretty uphill for the short distance. It's not super uphill. The ideal shot on this one, I believe, is the forehand, just at the trees, just left of the gap, and just let it fade. Donnie put this a little bit too far left, but he's going to have a look from there, so nothing to be upset about there. G going with that forehand again. And same thing, leaving it a little left. Leaving it left is the easy thing to do on this hole, especially throwing that forehand. I feel like the slope of the hole kind of tricks you to pulling it more left than you need to. Joe throwing a claymore on the turnover line, nestled up there. It's going to be a long putt, but it's a putt. So I'm going back with the verdict here. Trying to throw something straight, a little flip up, and just kind of finish right before it gets to those trees. So throwing a pretty good line here, a little more hyzer than I wanted, but it's going to get me up there near the basket. I should be putting from there. So this is where Donnie's drive ended up. On the other side of the ditch. It's a difficult putt with awkward footing, but it's in range. Just missed that one. So I don't know if you can hear it in the background or not, but GX just says to Donnie here, whatever you do, don't leave it short. If you leave it short, you're fired. So Donnie made sure he did not leave it short. So this will be our 2-putt to try to take one of them back. Good putt by me, if I have to say so myself. So that puts us only one behind, plenty of power, with still lots of holes left to go. Moving on to hole 16, 608 foot. It doesn't sound like it's too difficult of a hole, but with 2 throws being primarily over water, it makes it a very difficult hole. The ideal shot here is exactly what Joe's doing if you've got the guts to go for it. He throws an absolute bomb there and just puts us in prime position. And here I'm throwing one of my favorite destroyers, trying to just see if I can one-up him and be a little aggressive since he's thrown such a great shot. And I got it way too high in the air, and it never had a chance to get back in bounds. I think it's just going way out in the lake. So David, whenever you find that, I appreciate it. Donnie's going with a safe forehand route, trying to just play over there where that tree is, where the short basket is located for the other positions. So just throwing that little forehand out there, just trying to get safe. The wind just gets under it and never lets it get to the ground, and he actually skips right into the road OB long. So G just needs to play a safe shot here and get inbounds. Again, the wind today is just absolutely ripping, and you can see his disc just never ever hook up. And so that's going to put him OB as well long. It's a tough spot to be in on this hole, but there's still another water carrier to go, so they just got to get this drive safe where they can make an attack at the basket and try to save their bogey and hope that we mess up on our next set of shots. So that was their drop zone throw. This would be G from their second shot, which would be their third throw. So he's throwing 4. He's throwing a nice shot. That's going to give him a good putt. And this is where Joe's drive ended up, right here perfectly just off the edge of this tee pad for the next hole. So I'm just taking a buzz, putting it out there on a hyzer, trusting it to do what it does, and just absolutely park this hole. So that'll be as far as the play on this hole. They conceded the hole, which brings us back to even. So we're through 7 and back tied up. Moving on to hole 17. This is a fun hole. It's throughout the weekend we had a lot of headwind on this hole. So you're pretty much throwing the most overstable disc I had in my bag on a forehand line, low, and just letting the wind do what it does to it. And you can see it just absolutely rips it over here. That is a very overstable Wraith. You can see how much it turns it over, and it just brings it back inside. So we're going to be safe down there by the water. Joe's trying to go for some big distance here, throwing that turn again, and the wind just had its way with it and just ripped it over and buried it in the woods. You can see here the trees just swirling. It was difficult conditions to play a big bomber hole where you want to unleash like this. And Donnie's throwing a nice shot. He's left that a little more right than you want, ideally, I think, but it's going to give him the elevation to throw more aggressively at the basket. G's throwing a good shot. He just needs that to turn a little more. You can see it just wind just crushing it down, but he does keep it in bounds, so they'll have some options. They do go with Donnie's shot, so the basket plays a little downhill from here, so they can play a little hyzer into the basket and try to get that little bit of extra push. But with the wind, Donnie just not able to quite get it to flip like he wanted it to. But he's going to be in position to save an easy par from there. So I'm taking my overstable Thunderbird and just put a little hyzer on it, get a little skip down there towards the basket. That's going to put us about 30, 35 feet with the death putt. G's forced to just lay up from where they are. There's not really a chance for making that from about 100 out. Joe lining up on this big putt and cans it. Great putt, Joe, to put us up by 1. So we've come back 3 in 3 holes. So making some moves. Hopefully we can keep it going. Moving on to hole 18, which is the iconic Stoney Hill hole. If you think of Stoney Hill, this is the hole you think of. It's one of my favorite holes on the course. So off the tee, ideally you want to put it out the gap. There are 3 gaps that go across the quarry. There's a big left gap, a big right gap, and a small straight gap. So I tend to play for the big right gap, just throw a forehand out there and just trust it to keep turning right, which is exactly what it does. It's just what I wanted. Donnie's going with the forehand. I think he's trying to play a flip here. Just doesn't quite get it low enough or get it out the gap. So puts the pressure on G to throw a nice shot. And he does. That is absolutely perfect. So he's going for that big left gap over there. Gives you a nice little layup onto the hill if you can. But where we are, we're fighting a lot of headwind here, or left to right wind. And I throw a big hyzer, and I think it's going to get there, and that wind just holds it up, and it just never gets any glide to the left. So you can see here where G's drive left him, that big open gap there. On top of that hill, you can see to the right-hand side across the quarry, the basket's positioned right on top of that. Donnie throws a beautiful second shot. It hits and sticks up there on that hill. So as close as they are, I know our only chance is for me to run this knee putt from in the woods and try to can it. So gonna give it a go and see what we can make happen from here. I committed to it, but just didn't quite get it as high as I needed to. So this would be Donnie tapping in a little shorty to take the easy point on us and take us back to a push. All right, then we'll be moving on to hole 1, 580 feet downhill, super downhill, off to the left. One of my favorite holes to throw on the course, even though it's just one where you can absolutely just unleash and let go on it. Donnie here throwing the aggressive forehand route, flip over, with the headwind that's always coming up here, playing a turnover is difficult, and he played that absolutely perfect. You'll see where that shot landed in a minute. From where he was, G's just throwing a shot for fun. So G's throwing another good shot, but compared to what Donnie just did, it's not going to matter. Joe made the mistake that's easy to make on this hole. If you get it up in the air with the strong wind that's always blowing here, it's going to go in the woods left or right. Either it's going to turn over and go in the woods, or it's going to hyzer out and go in the woods. So I'm taking my Wraith and trying to throw it out there and fight the headwind, and I make the same mistake Joe does. Put it up in the air, and it's just going to track right into those woods to the left. This is a hole where you have to make sure you get your angles right and get the nose of the disc down and throw it downhill. So from where we are, tight left side, our only shot's going to be a roller out to try to get us a look towards the basket. So this is my attempt at a roller. Just cuts around the corner, gets around in there, and that's going to give us a putt. It's going to be a tough putt, but this is where Donnie's drive ended up absolutely perfect. So good run by G. That's going to set them up for the 3 easily. And this is going to be our putt to try to save the 3. You can just look at those branches on the foreground and see how much the wind is whipping here. So my putt just a little high, and this will be Donnie to pick this one up to take the lead back. About 15 feet. Makes good on that. So now everybody can say Donnie did make a putt this round. He was very happy about the few putts he did make. Moving on to hole 2, 285 feet. This hole is kind of difficult. It plays through a tight tunnel right off the tee, and it plays uphill to the right. The ideal forehand line, I think, is obstructed by the trees that are in the middle of the fairway, so it makes it a more preferable backhand line, in my opinion, but I just can't figure out how to get a 2 on this hole to save my life. And you don't see very many 2s on this hole. This is probably one of the fewest birdied holes on the course, in my opinion. But Donnie's throwing a good shot up there. G's throwing a good shot up there. Just anything that gets up there and finishes over to the right, it's going to give you a look at the basket to try to make something happen. Joe's going with the backhand turnover here. Puts a good move on that. That should be pretty good. Get him a putt at least. And I'm going backhand comet, just trying to throw it high and turn it over. Something I know I can trust to keep that turn going. I throw what I think is a good shot, but it's caught up in those trees and just doesn't quite make it where it needs to. So this will be where they ended up for their 2 putt. Solid position. It's about as good as you're going to get on this hole. Just missed that one. So this will be our putt from the edge of the woods to the right, under a low ceiling. Can't really see it. You'll see it when the transition, when the camera pans. Spin putt, in, out, in, out. So that would have been to take a hole back and to bring it back to even, but just caged out. And moving on to hole 3. This is a really fun hole. It's a forehand to light hole. If you've got a righty forehand, this hole feels like a gimme. Just going to throw that forehand pretty much like Donnie's doing. He left it a little short. You're just trying to push that wood line straight ahead and let it finish to the right, and you're going to be underneath the basket. G made the same mistake. It's just a hair short. Joe's going to be throwing his Firebird here, and he likes his shot, throwing a Firebird low and hard, and gets it right where he wants to, gets that good little skip. That's going to be a great shot. And then I'm going Buzz OS pretty much on the same line Joe takes. I just put it a little higher so I can get a little more glide. So I did not do what I wanted to, and I turned it over and just threw it straight into the woods. But luckily my partner threw a great drive, so no worries. G to try to capitalize and try to save that one. Unable to do so. So this will be our putt from about 20 feet where Joe's drive landed to get us back to even overall. Canned it, moving on, finally back to even. It took us a while to get caught back up, but we managed to. Moving on to hole 4. Hole 4, another very, very tough par 3. For a short par 3, you can get in a lot of trouble here. The creek winds throughout the hole. You have to cross the creek once, but if you leave your drive at all on a forehand hyzer that skips right, you're in the creek. If you're in the woods left, you have no look. Very tough shot. So just trying to throw a forehand down there and see if we can get anywhere near a look towards the basket. That's our plan. Neither one of us really executed that ideally, but it's down the fairway and moving. So Donnie left that a little bit right. G did the same thing, and they're both going to be in the woods short right. But the good thing about this hole being as short as it is, even if you do hit an early tree, if you manage to stay in bounds, so Donnie managed to stay in bounds on a little jut out into the creek. So if you stay in bounds, your 3 here is easy. The 2 is just very difficult. Joe for a long run at it. Gave it a chance. Neither one of us able to capitalize on there, so we're going to push that hole as well and just keep it moving. Going on to hole 5. This is a really fun par 4. Your tee shot here is pretty much just going to be a backhand hyzer with a mid-range or a putter. Something overstable that's just going to push a little left but not push too long. So Joe's throwing a pretty good shot there. Since he's safe, I'm going to try to throw an aggressive shot and throw the forehand turnover here and try to bite off a lot and get us way down that fairway. But I got a little too turned over and it actually cut rolled into the woods up there. Not ideal, but Joe threw a good shot, so we should be safe. And Donnie, being a forehand only player, he's trying to do the same thing I did. He just didn't quite get it turned over enough. And so that leaves G throwing him backhand. I believe he's throwing a Thunderbird here, trying to get a little bit of extra skip when he hits. He put it super tight on that corner and got a little skip, got him in pretty good position. So ideally, once you get up to this fairway, you want to be to that left side, which gives you this long forehand blast down that fairway so you can try to finish up there. G just catches a tree on the left and leaves them in a spot where they can get their par from there. Joe throwing a forehand here around the corner. From where we were, a little deep, that's about all you can hope for. So we're about 100, 120 out. I'm trying to just put a little forehand run on this. Try to see if we can't take this hole and keep it moving. Just a little left and a little short. Hit the pole, but doesn't count for anything. So this will be G taking their putt to save their 3. Just can't quite get it. So we'll both push that hole, and we're moving on to the next one. So hole 6, another 630-foot par 5, plays through the woods behind Chris's house. This is a really fun hole. Ideally off the tee, you're trying to play something pretty straight with a slight right finish, but straight is more important than right. So again here, I'm going to go with a verdict. Play a little flip up to flat, slight finish to the right. So I'm playing down that left-hand side, and it's going to hyzer out. It's going to leave me a little bit short of the ideal landing zone, but it's more consistent for me to play the straighter shot than trying to play into the ideal landing zone. So Donnie, he's throwing a pretty nice shot here. Got that little skip at the end. He should be in good position there. G doing the same, but he just gets a little too much hyzer on it and pushes it up into the woods right. So from where I landed, we do have this lane here to get towards the basket. So I'm going Thunderbird, trying to just push the woods far and just get it around. And that's exactly how I drew it up. Trying to get myself where we can have a look for 3. And Donnie's drive was a little deep, but he's got a nice forehand game. So he's going to throw this nice little turnover shot. It's just going to trickle right up there. He's going to put it right beside my drive, my second shot. And so we're both going to be sitting. You can see his second shot just to the right of mine. We're both going to be putting for our 3 on this hole. So not often do you see a 3 on this hole, and I don't think I've ever played this hole where more than one person had a look for 3, but see if G can capitalize. Yeah. So 4, still a great score on this hole, still a birdie. It is a 3-able hole, but it's not something you're going to see very often. Moving on to hole 7. I know I've said it already, but then this might be actually the hardest hole on the course, according to par. Par 3, you've got 2 gaps. You got a left gap and a right gap. Both of them are tough. So most people are going to take the left gap because it's a little bit bigger, and you can throw the forehand where you can look down the gap at it. I'm throwing my zone here, trying to get a little flip up. I push it down the left-hand side. I get a little too far left, and it kicks in the woods to the right. Just a brutal hole. You have to absolutely lace this one. There used to be a big thumber route over the top, but the trees have gotten a little too tall over the tee pad to be able to consistently throw that shot. Donnie threw what looked like a great shot. It had you a little too early and kicked in the woods to the left. G just missed the gap. But should be able to save our 3s from here and give him a little half go for a maybe 2 attempt here. So Donnie for his birdie. G for the birdie. left a little right, but it should be close enough for they get their easy par from there. And this will be Joe's putt for our birdie attempt. Just front cage, so close. So we're both going to take our pars there. We're going to move on to the next hole. Still even. Hole 8, we started on hole 10, so not many left to go. Hole 8, 295. Pretty much just a straight shot with a right-hand, backhand finish to it. You got to make it out this gap. Joe's throwing a claymore here. He's pushed a little bit too far left, but it looks like it made it out the gap. It should be okay. So this will be me throwing my verdict again. Trying to get a little extra push on there to fight a little bit of wind. I've thrown a pretty good shot here. Pretty straight. A little hyzer finish to the end. That should get us up there by the basket for a fairly routine putt. Putting the pressure on him. Here comes G. Throwing a Thunderbird, I believe, at this. Straightened it out a little bit, but I think that's going to give him a long look at it. So this is where G's drive ended. Man, that's a huge putt. You can see his reaction, seeing how close Joe and I were. He knew we were hitting that, so he knew he had to hit that with only one hole to go. So the final hole, hole 9, 316 feet downhill the entire way. Basket is perched on the side of a hill with hard pack around the basket. The ideal shot here for me is a forehand hyzer that's going to come down and spike into the hill and sit. Joe likes the backhand putter straight. He hyzered out a little bit early, but it should be in bounds down there. The tall grass down there, that line extends and pretty much follows the whole hole as an OB line left. I put a little too much hyzer on that shot, so it put me a little bit too far to the right, but it's going to be putting. Donnie throwing a little bit more optimal line, spiking in. You can see he's right there on the basket. He might just be a little long. G going the forehand route, put it a little too straight at it, and that's going to get him a little skip off to the left. This is where my drive ended up. So we're going to be putting for our birdie to try to put the pressure on them to try to make this putt to win. Because right now we're even. So this is about Joe's left his a little short. So a pressure putt from about 30 feet downhill. Don't leave it short. Or leave it short. That's fine too. So we both missed our putts. So this is going to be G for the win on about a 30-foot uphill putt. We just missed it. And this will be Donnie for the same putt for the win. Come on, Donnie.
Come on.
He put it on target, just left it a little low. So we ended a tie after 18 holes, a lot of back and forth. Tied it all up. So this is how the round ended up after round two. Round 2 totals, you can take a look at that. Seeing Team Versace is in first place with Stoney Skills and Filthy 4 coming in right after them. So I want to say thanks everybody for watching and stay tuned for more. Thanks.